Hi, and thank you for joining me for today's process video. And today, once again, I'm using Curiosities in Willow Grove by Vicky Booton for 49 a Market, and I'm documenting a photo of myself, Jackie and Julie when we went for a pub meal before our DT weekend away. So this is for 30 Days of Sketches with Christie's Beautiful Life Series 19, and the sketch is up there in the top left hand corner. I'll leave all the details that I can find on the person who created this sketch in the description box down below, so do go and check that out. So I've pulled the colours from the photo. Julie's got a beautiful blue top on there, and then there's the green ferns growing up or not ferns but fronds growing up the pub front. This was just after we'd had our meal and Jackie snapped a quick selfie of the three of us. So I've chosen this green fern paper for the top of the page and the blue herringbone for the bottom, which is from the gosh, always get these muddled up. I think it's Staples paper. I've got it here actually. It is, yes, Staples paper 4. So I've just torn a strip of each of those papers to attach to the top and bottom, and you can see I've curled the edges. I spent a little bit of time tearing. I tore the fern paper the wrong way round, so I had a lot of white showing when I tried to curl up the edges. So I just spent a little bit of time pulling off those white edges so that the pale green from the underside is showing through. So I've got that white strip of card in the middle, and I didn't want that to look quite so stark white, so I'm going to use the beautiful rub-ons from this collection to grunge it up a little bit. So the photo was printed just under 4x6. I add it to my notes app on my iPhone and then print it from there so that I don't lose any of the edges, because if I just print it straight from my phone, it tends to enlarge the photo to fit the paper and you lose a little bit. So I find this the easiest way to print my photos now. So I've got that beautiful, it's almost like a bubble wrap print in green that I've added to the right hand side of the photo, and then I'm going to choose a couple of the rub-ons to add to the left. So first of all, this beautiful pale green, and it's like circles with text that's going to go on there, and then above that I'm going to add that it's almost like a turquoise blue block that's in the middle of that sheet. You'll see me cutting it out now, and that's just going to go above it. So these are either side of the photo, and it just sort of fills in those white blank spaces, if you like, and just creates a little bit of interest on the background. Some really nice layers to add the rest of my bits and pieces to. And I found my rub-on stick and it carefully squirreled away, so it's been so much easier to add these rub-ons now. And then I realised this piece was going to be underneath the photo, so I just trimmed that off, and I'm just going to add that to the left hand side of that bottom rub-on just to create a little bit more interest. It does look a little bit odd when I put it down there, but by the time I finish layering up all the bits and pieces that I'm adding to the layout, it all looks very cohesive in the end. Like I say, it's just for the background, so it's not a huge feature of the layout. So now I'm going to build my title, and it says Chronicle This Day. So I'm using the Chronicle word from the rub-ons, and then I find a very old LE Studio alphabet sticker sheet that I'm going to use. If you haven't looked at the LE Studio products, do go and take a look. Her alphabets in puffy and plain stickers are absolutely gorgeous. There are some really nice ones there. I am going to treat myself to some new ones when I've used a few more of my alphabets up, because I do have quite a stash. So there we go, there's the word Chronicle down, and you'll have seen there I used my T-square ruler just to check it was straight, and then I'm going to come in with that LE Studio alphabet just to add the rest of the letters underneath. And you can see how they layer really nicely, those rub-ons, because I've got that Chronicle word is over the other rub-on that I put on previously. So I won't make you watch all of this, but I'm going from back to front to write this day because I wanted the day to finish next to the photo. So there it is down, again using my trusty T-square ruler just to make sure that's straight. So the photo I want to add on foam at the top and then just have flat to the page at the bottom. I do mess about with this a little bit, and in the end it does end up slightly wonky, but because the lines of the paper, the torn paper, are not straight, it looks in keeping, it looks absolutely fine. So I'm going to keep it as is rather than mess and try and pull it up some more. So I do pull it up once, and I think this is where it goes a bit wonky. So there it is down. And then I'm going to add my journaling, which is just saying where we were and what we were doing. And it was Little Stretton. We were on the way to Craven Arms in Shropshire, and we stopped at Little Stretton, which is actually where Ross's grandparents or his grandfather was from. So it was really fun to go back to Little Stretton again. So I wanted to add these ferns just to mimic the paper at the top, and also because of all those lovely plants growing up the side of the pub. They're a big feature of the photo, so I just wanted to bring some greenery in. So I'm pulling out these two fern laser cuts, and then having a look to see what else there is on these sheets. I've got that lovely phrase piece as well that says begin anywhere, and the stitching is divine because it actually has tails, so it really does look like it's actual stitching. So I knew I had to use that. And then this is actually on the packaging of that set, and it just says the story, so I'm just cutting that out to add underneath my journaling there. So there's not a lot more embellishment that goes on here. I've sort of filled up that space quite nicely. I do want to have a tab above my photo, of course, for my date to be held, and I'm just looking through to see what else there is. I liked this ticket to add as a grounding spot behind those ferns, and then the camera, which the ferns will grow out of, if you like, underneath the photo. So I'm just going to trim off that camera strap. I really didn't need that on this layout. So that's coming off, and then that will sit just like that. So now this beautiful butterfly is just going to be added. It's funny because I put it on the photo that way, pointing towards the right hand side, but then when I glued it down, I added it pointing towards the other way around. I've put it there pointing towards the left, but when I stick it down it points towards the right. You'll see soon. So just gluing that camera straight down to the page, and then I'm just adding glue to some parts of the ferns, just so that they still have some movement on the page, and also because they're going over that curled edge, I didn't want to stick them down too flat because it would look odd, it would look bumpy. So just a dot of glue just to hold that there. And then there's that word phrase, and then I do find another one, and you'll see in the close-ups at the end I do actually come in with one of our wood phrases from the travel word strips in wood from Hey Little Magpie. It just sort of finishes it off. I felt that there was something missing in that bottom next to that camera, and you'll see that at the end. So gluing this butterfly down, as I say, I'm gluing it the other way around, with foam pads behind the left-hand wing, just to make that look like it's flying across the page. And then the story, I contemplated adding it to foam, but decided just to have that flat to the page as well. So just adding some foam behind that little heart. It's like a little checkered heart. It's really sweet. And that's going to the left of my journaling, just to fill in that little spot there. There we go. And then this piece again is going flat to the page, but because it sits on top of those curled edges, it does stand up a little bit at the top. So I'm going to go through the die cut pieces. There are 2 packs in this collection. One is icons and ephemera, and the other one is journaling bits. And I'm just looking through to see what I can find there, and straight away I find this beautiful tab that's going to act as my date holder. And I do just journal in my handwriting rather than use my roller date stamp for this one. You'll see that in the close-ups again. I did that off camera. So here's another little word strip that I found. It just says be happy, so I'm going to add that above that first one that says begin anywhere from the laser cuts. And now into the other ephemera pack, just to see if I can find anything else. And I do in fact find some more leaves just to add around that camera. Again, it was feeling a little bit blank. So first of all, I add a couple behind the fern, just here. And I like those, but then just to balance it out, in a minute you'll see I bring in a couple next to the camera, and also an oak leaf goes in next to that camera as well. So adding glue to these, and I do I add some foam pads? I can't remember now, we'll see in a minute. Looks like it, just to raise that up and give some movement. And then I try this third one here, but it's just too much. So you'll see me fiddling about a little bit. In the end, I add it to the left-hand side of that camera and build up the little cluster there. And I'm really pleased with how that looks in the end, especially with that wood piece that I bring right at the end off camera. So do wait and see the close-ups at the very end. So check the description box down below to see the playlist of everybody who's playing along with 30 Days of Sketches. They all add their videos as they create them. I've had problems with the playlist this month, so I've not been able to add my videos to that, but I am adding them to the Facebook group. There is a Facebook group as well if you just search. And that's it. I hope you've enjoyed this process video. Thank you so much for joining me. I'll see you again soon. Bye.